That being said, I'm going to start with a short family business tidbit. I'm going to talk about how to figure out how much to pay people in family businesses. This is a common question. So here's the way I like to think about how much should you pay people in family business. There are three places where you can pay people. One is in the business, of course. That's the most obvious one, and that's where we'll spend the most time. Another way you can pay people in your family business is through ownership. Maybe they're getting distributions from stock or just quarterly or annual distributions from the business. The third place you can pay people in a family business is from your own family's money, your private money. So I'm going to respond to those three things. Those are three ways you can pay people in the family business. Often in the first generation of a family business, the way that person or those people get paid, from what I have observed, is very different than second, third, fourth generation. I'm not going to talk about first generation because often that's an entrepreneurial company and there's a whole bunch of stuff involved in that. That's not so much how much do we pay people in family business. So answering this question, how much should we pay people in family business? I'm really focused on second, third, fourth generation and beyond. When paying people in the business, from the business circle, the healthiest way to determine what to pay people is simply using market rate for the work they're doing. Put them in a job that they're the right person for, meaning they have the skills, the abilities, the capacity to do the role, and make sure that they fit with the culture of the company. In EOS, we call that right person, right seat. If you don't use EOS, you may have other ways of determining that this person is really right for the company. And what I mean when I say this is please don't make up seats for family members and then just make up amounts of money to pay them. Instead, please make sure that family members are doing real jobs that the business needs to get done and that they're good at the job, and then pay them market rate for that job. As many of you on this call probably know, but the wider world does not know, is at least research says that family businesses tend to underpay their family members. They tend to underpay them, even though people like to make up stories about family businesses or assume that they're overpaying family members. That's actually not usually how it goes. So that is the healthiest way to pay family members in the business, market rate for their work. Another way to pay family members is through the ownership circle. So family members might have stock in the company. That's usually the typical way that a family member would get paid. A lot of family businesses will determine how much people get paid from ownership based on how much stock they have. So there's a lot of different ways to figure that out. I'll tell you about one family business I know. They were going into the third generation. In the third generation, there were 4 people. In the second generation, there were 3 people. I'm not going to give you the whole entire story, but the way they ended up doing it was the second generation held on to 50% of the stock. So they each had a third of 50% of the stock. And the third generation each had 25% of half of the stock. Those numbers may be interesting, but they're not the most valuable thing. What they essentially did was said one generation got 50% of the stock, the other generation got 50% of the stock, and they divided it up equally among members of the generation. The number of people in each generation. My whole point is this. Some family businesses say in ownership, we're all equal. And then let's pretend there's $100 to share. Let's hope it's more than that. At the end of a quarter, we'll just divide that up equally, or we'll divide up 100% of it equally. Others will say those who work in the business get a higher percentage of stock, and thus they would get a larger share of the distribution. That is something that needs to get decided on by owners. But that is definitely a way you can pay family members. Let's imagine a scenario. I know of this scenario. The next generation has a family member who works inside of the business. She is an office administrator. She's paid market rate for that role. I don't know what it is, but my guess is it's significantly less than her brother who runs sales. He runs the entire sales department for the company. He makes a lot more money inside of the business than she does. And as equal owners, they share in the distributions from the company. So they get equal checks. I don't know if it's quarterly or annually, but they get equal checks. They also have equal responsibility to put money back into the business if that's needed going forward. So in the ownership circle, you can pay family members. Third place is you can pay family members out of your personal money or family money. This usually comes in the form, as far as stories I know, is gift giving, either for tax purposes or just generosity or for both. What people usually do is absolutely treat that equally. If you're going to give money to one kid and you have 3 kids, you give the same amount of money to all 3 kids. If a grandparent, let's say, is giving money to grandkids, it's usually equal amounts. The only exception I've seen in the healthiest family businesses I know is they might give a certain amount up to one age and then a larger amount up to a different age, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes they graduate it. So let's say you have a 1-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 23-year-old grandkid. The gifts might be different at those ages, but they all get the same amount when they're 1. They all get the same amount when they're 10. They all get the same amount when they're 23.